Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of real estate,
Okay.
specifically the financial side of things.
Right.
We've got some really great expert advice to go through today,
Hmm.
all about financing and negotiating in real estate.
Cool.
It's really practical stuff that can help you whether you're buying or selling.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is that financing and negotiation touches every part of a real estate deal.
Right.
It's not just about the money, but understanding how everything works together.
Uh-huh.
The psychology, the strategies, the whole game.
Yeah, I was really struck by what the expert said about working with an agent who is also your lender.
Okay.
They advise being cautious in those situations.
Yeah, it's all about those potential conflicts of interest.
Right.
While it's not necessarily a bad thing,
Uh-huh.
you have to be extra careful about transparency.
I see.
You need to know exactly what all the costs are and be sure you're getting the best possible deal
Yeah,
on both the property and the financing.
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Buying or selling a home is already complicated enough.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be questioning someone's motivations on top of that.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to just choosing any lender,
Okay.
the expert makes a comparison to going steady in a relationship. I
Okay.
think that's a great way to put it because a mortgage is a big commitment.
Yeah, you mentioned responsiveness as a key factor in choosing a lender.
Mhm.
Why is that so important? Especially in a competitive market like we're expecting in 2025.
Imagine this. You've found your dream home,
Okay.
but your lender is slow to process your pre-approval or loan application.
Uh-huh.
In a fast-paced market, that delay could mean another buyer swoops in and gets the house.
Right.
A responsive lender can make all the difference in securing your dream property.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose out just because your lender is dragging their feet.
So being able to reach your lender, getting quick answers, and having them work efficiently within those tight timelines
Exactly.
is critical.
Very important.
I'm seeing that the expert even mentions a trend towards using mortgage brokers
Right.
because they're often more flexible and responsive.
It's right.
Shows how the industry is adapting to what buyers need,
Yes.
especially in those competitive markets.
For sure.
Another thing the expert really emphasizes is getting pre-approved for a loan
Yeah.
before you even start looking at houses.
Absolutely.
I've heard some people say they skip pre-approval because they think they can figure it out later.
Mm-hmm.
What are the real-world consequences of doing that?
Well,
Can you give an example of when pre-approval made all the difference?
let's say you find a fantastic property and you want to make an offer,
Okay.
but you haven't been pre-approved.
Okay.
The seller might be hesitant to accept your offer
Right.
because they don't know if you can actually get a loan.
That makes sense.
Another buyer who is pre-approved comes along,
Wow.
makes an offer, and gets the house.
Oh, wow.
You miss out simply because you weren't prepared.
Right.
Pre-approval shows sellers you're serious and qualified.
Makes sense.
It can give you a competitive advantage,
Uh-huh.
especially when there are multiple offers on the table.
And of course, it helps you know what you can afford,
For sure.
so you don't fall in love with a place that's outside your budget.
Right.
It's interesting that the expert also talks about specific loan types, like FHA and VA loans,
Yeah.
and how they can impact condo approvals.
Right. Not all loans are created equal, and some loans have restrictions on what types of properties they can be used for.
Okay.
For instance, some condo buildings might not be approved for FHA or VA financing.
Oh, wow.
This is something buyers need to be aware of early on,
Yeah.
especially if they're interested in buying a condo.
Right.
You don't want to find the perfect condo only to discover later that your loan type isn't accepted
Right.
in that building.
It seems like understanding those details early on can save a lot of headaches later.
Absolutely.
Speaking of potentially stressful situations,
Mhm.
the expert talks about multiple offers and how they can impact negotiations.
Absolutely. When you have multiple buyers interested in the same property,
Yeah.
it shifts the power to the seller.
Right.
They can use this to negotiate better terms for themselves.
So even in a market with more homes available, like what's predicted for 2025,
Mm-hmm.
buyers still need to be ready for tough competition.
Yeah.
What kinds of strategies do sellers use when they have multiple offers?
It's common for sellers to try to drive up the price
Okay.
by asking buyers to submit their highest and best offer.
Oh, wow.
They might also ask for certain contingencies to be removed,
Okay.
like the inspection contingency or the financing contingency to
Yeah.
make the offer more appealing.
I see.
They might even try to speed up the closing timeline to get the deal done faster.
Wow. It sounds like buyers need to be ready to think strategically and maybe make some compromises to get their offer accepted.
Yeah.
The expert talks about contingencies being important for buyer protection, but also how reducing those contingencies can sometimes make an offer more attractive to a seller.
It's a tricky balance.
For example, you might shorten the inspection period to make your offer stand out.
Okay.
That could work in your favor.
Uh-huh.
But it also means you have less time to thoroughly check the property for any issues.
That's a great example of the trade-offs involved.
Mm-hmm.
It really emphasizes the point about understanding those contingencies
Yes,
and what they mean for you as a buyer.
absolutely.
What about from the seller's side? How do they usually view contingencies?
Sellers, of course, would prefer an offer with fewer contingencies
Okay.
because it means less risk for them.
Right.
Fewer contingencies mean fewer opportunities for the deal to fall through.
Yeah.
They might counter an offer with many contingencies
Okay.
by asking the buyer to remove some or shorten the time frame
Got
for
it.
certain contingencies.
So it's a negotiation.
It is.
Both sides trying to find a balance that works.
Absolute.
The expert goes on to really stress the importance of using data when you're negotiating,
Yeah.
whether you're the buyer or the seller. It's about having solid evidence to back up what you're asking for.
Right.
If you're a buyer offering below the asking price
Okay.
or requesting repairs, you need to be able to show the seller why your request is reasonable.
Right.
This might include data on comparable properties
Okay.
that have sold recently,
Got it.
quotes for repairs, or an analysis of the local market trends.
So you can't just throw out a number and hope for the best.
Exactly.
You need to be prepared.
Absolutely.
What about from the seller's perspective?
Mm-hmm.
How can they use data effectively?
Sellers need to be careful not to overprice their property.
Okay.
They often rely on their agent's advice or online platforms for pricing guidance.
Right.
But that information isn't always accurate or up to date.
I see.
Relying on outdated information or inflated values
Yeah.
can lead to a property sitting on the market for too long.
You're saying that overpricing can actually backfire.
Exactly. If a property is priced too high, it might not attract any offers. Or it might attract low offers that the seller isn't happy with.
Okay.
Then they might have to lower the price.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes even below what they could have gotten
Yeah.
if they had priced it realistically from the beginning.
It seems like data is key on both sides of the negotiation.
It is.
Buyers and sellers both need to understand the market and have the information to support their positions.
That's right.
It's fascinating how emotions can play such a big role in real estate.
Yeah, for sure.
The expert even shares a story about reminding their clients
Right.
that buying or selling a home is a non-emotional business proposal and plan.
Right. Emotions can lead to costly mistakes.
I see.
It's like that saying, buy the worst house in the best neighborhood.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to look beyond the surface
Right.
and think about the long-term potential.
I love that. It's about being strategic, not impulsive.
Yeah.
That makes me think about those 2025 market predictions.
Okay.
It sounds like things could be pretty dynamic
Yeah.
for both buyers and sellers.
For sure.
What did the expert have to say about that?
Well, they acknowledge that the market can be unpredictable,
Right.
but they do see some interesting trends on the horizon.
Okay.
For one, they anticipate more inventory coming onto the market
Okay.
in early 2025.
More choices are always good.
Yeah.
But if there's also increased buyer demand,
Yeah.
won't that just lead to more competition
Right. Yep.
and maybe even push prices higher?
That's a possibility. And the prediction of steady interest rates is a double-edged sword. While stable rates can make financing more predictable, they could also change quickly,
Okay.
depending on what's happening in the economy.
So for our listeners who are thinking about buying or selling in 2025,
Okay.
what does this all mean? What should they be prepared for?
I think the takeaway is to be ready for anything.
Yeah, okay.
Don't rely solely on predictions.
Right.
Focus on understanding your own financial situation, how much risk you're comfortable with,
Yeah.
and what your specific needs and goals are.
That's where doing a deep dive like this can be so helpful.
Yeah, I think so too.
Learning from experts and hearing about real-world scenarios
Right.
can help us make smarter decisions, even when the market is unpredictable.
Absolutely.
This deep dive goes beyond just the mechanics of financing and negotiating.
Yeah,
It's about cultivating the right mindset and approach.
I agree.
That reminds me of what we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
The expert's advice on emotional detachment.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement or stress
Right.
of buying or selling a home.
Absolutely.
Remembering that it's a business transaction, first and foremost,
Yeah.
can help us stay grounded.
Absolutely. It's about making informed decisions.
Right.
Not emotional ones.
Okay.
That brings me to a final thought for our listeners.
I'm all ears.
Think about how you can apply the insights from this deep dive to your own real estate goals.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned investor or buying your first place.
Right.
There's always something to learn.
I think that's such a great point.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is ask the right questions.
Absolutely.
And seek out expert guidance when you need it.
Knowing what you're doing and being curious is powerful.
Yeah.
Especially with something as complex as real estate.
It makes me think about how we each approach negotiations. Are we comfortable being assertive, or do we prefer a more collaborative style?
Right.
Knowing ourselves can really impact how we handle those conversations.
That's such a great point, and it connects back to what we were discussing about risk tolerance.
Right.
How much are you willing to compromise to get the deal done? Are you okay with waiving contingencies? Or do you absolutely need those protections in place?
It seems like those are questions everyone needs to consider based on their own circumstances.
Absolutely.
What stood out to me in the expert's advice is that getting caught up in a bidding war
Right.
can make it easy to forget about those contingencies and what they mean.
Yeah.
It's like you get so focused on winning that you lose sight of the bigger picture.
That's exactly what the expert cautions against.
Right.
They emphasize approaching real estate transactions as business decisions.
Yeah.
And not getting swept up in the emotion of it all.
Right.
It's easy to do, especially when you find a place you love.
Yeah.
But it's important to stay focused on the facts and the numbers.
It's almost like you have to have two brains working at the same time.
I like that.
One that's excited about the possibilities and the other that's keeping things grounded in reality.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I think that balance is key.
Right.
And that's why having a good real estate agent and a trusted lender can be so valuable. They can provide that objective perspective and help you make sound decisions.
So much of what we've talked about today highlights how important it is to have the right team supporting you.
Absolutely.
It's not just about finding a house you love, but navigating all the complexities that come with buying or selling real estate.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this deep dive. Understanding the financial intricacies of real estate can empower both buyers and sellers to make informed decisions.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the nuances of agent-lender relationships to the power of multiple offers. And even those 2025 market predictions.
Right.
I hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the financial side of real estate.
Me too.
And maybe even inspired you to think differently about your own real estate goals.
I completely agree.
Okay.
Whether you're buying your first home, selling your current property, or thinking about investing,
Right.
remember to do your research, ask the right questions, and don't be afraid to seek out expert guidance when you need it.
That's such great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of real estate finance.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic.
Sounds good.
Until then, happy house hunting.